Awakened is an initiative that has started to deal with racism and prejudice against women. I'm also writing a book so that I can provide more understanding on these themes. The scourge of racism and prejudice has been with us for a long time. The time has come for us to find workable solutions. Today, I want us to address the issue of racism and prejudice against Africans because they are the most disadvantaged. Let us start by looking at the origins of racism and prejudice. So, prejudice is something that has been with us as a human race for a long time. I am prejudiced against the other because they are different from me. This may be because of nationality or culture or ethnic group or religion. But racism is a newer phenomenon that started at the time of the slave trade because there was a reason to justify slavery. So what happened was that myths were created, especially around the African, that they are savages, they are subhuman, they are barbaric, they are lazy, they are ugly, and they are thieves, things like that. So these myths are believed by everyone. We are all born in a society with these beliefs. And they look to be true because our experience shows them to be so. The myths have been dispelled and yet they continue. Slavery is something that has existed in every culture. It really grew at the time of the conquest when prisoners of war were taken into slavery. But in Africa, slavery started before colonialization, and it was driven by things like tribal wars and ordinary reasons like dealing with criminals or debt bondage. We have to acknowledge the fact that Africans were involved in the Atlantic slave trade. African leaders sold their own people into slavery. Prejudice is not just about race. As we have seen with the continuing tribal wars in Africa, the tax wars and xenophobia in South Africa, it is very much about economics. Even racism is a smokescreen for economics. It is fueled by a belief in the economics of shortage. There's not enough for everyone, so the other must be kept out. Let us look objectively at the slow progress in Africa. I've already spoken about the factors at play around white privilege. See my other video. Today, I want us to focus on the factors affecting Black progress. We don't have enough research around the psychological damage due to slavery, colonialism, and racism. And we must acknowledge the fact that Black people have psychological damage because of racism. But I do believe that there are other factors affecting African failures. And for me, these include culture, tradition, and politics. Culture and tradition has to evolve with the times. We can no longer hold on to traditions that no longer serve us in the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We develop according to our level of consciousness, and education is a major contributor to that. As Black people, we have to acknowledge that there have been many failures. The major one of those failures is the lack of economic progress in Africa after colonialism. We still have to do the research as to why African countries have not achieved economic growth, while other countries who were colonized, like the Asian countries, have achieved phenomenal growth after colonialism. Today, India is the 5th largest economy in the world. China have been able to take out 800 million people out of poverty. Africans are not the only ones who have suffered cruel atrocities because of conquest by other nations. They are not the only ones who were colonized. They are not the only ones who were taken into slavery. but they are the only ones who are still holding on to the past. My Africa, it has been 400 years. It is time to put the past behind us, like the Asian countries did, so that we can see economic growth that is much needed in Africa today. In considering solutions, the first one for me is to let go of the past. Rehashing the past only enslaves us to it. Even at a personal level, we know that holding on to the past only keeps you in the past. The time has come for us as Africans to stop the blame game, to stop playing victim, to look at our problems and overcome them. The second one is to attend to the healing of the psychological damage Black people have suffered because of the effects of racism and discrimination. The wounds run deep because we still experience racism in democratic South Africa. The secondary effects of the psychological damage can be seen in the brokenness in Black families, especially the Africans and the Coloureds. Some European and American leaders and some African leaders have apologized for slavery. We have also seen many instances of white people apologizing for apartheid. This has not helped us to move on. As Awakened, our philosophy is to focus on the individual. There are too many factors at play in the broader struggle for racism and discrimination. And this work has to continue because we have to rid society and institutions of discrimination. What we are advocating is that the individual must free themselves from a conditioned mind that is programmed by our unfortunate past. It is much easier to attend to your own individual issues. No one is going to do this for you. A wounded people cannot rebuild. The one who is superior needs someone to be inferior for them to continue to be superior. If the one who is inferior then stops seeing themselves as inferior, who then can be superior over them? With every Black person who is awakened to their authentic power, we are starting to chip away at racism. The Bible is full of metaphors. The one that always encourages me, especially when I'm discouraged or overwhelmed, is the story of the Israelites after 400 years of slavery in Egypt. They wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Then they had to fight enemies in order to possess the promised land. Then they had to build cities to live in. God did not say, "Oh, Shem, you have been through so much. Just rest a little bit before you embark on the enterprise of possessing the promised land." We have also had our own 60-year wilderness since Ghana obtained freedom in 1959. It is time to rebuild Africa. We owe it to our children. There is already a lot of scientific research around these topics. We already have a lot of spiritual tools that are available that can help in this endeavor. All we need is the will of the individual to attend to their own healing. With every Black person who gets healed, we are contributing to the healing of the continent. Please see my other video on racism and prejudice for more on this subject. Awakened is a call to action for every Black person to take back their power, to free themselves from limiting beliefs that has been socialized by society. I see people awakened to who they truly are. I see a movement of people awakened to their authentic power.